second speaker this morning, Steve Vernon. Steve is a research scholar at the Stanford Center on Longevity and president of Rest of Life Communications. Steve is considered by many as one of the leading authorities on the subject of retirement, having successfully published several books on this topic. In his role, I'm going to grab his latest book, which just came out. In his roles at Stanford and Rest of Life Communications, Steve writes, speaks, and conducts research on the most challenging aspects of retirement, which includes finances, health, and lifestyle. For more than 30 years, he's been consulting with Fortune 1000 employers, helping them design, manage, and communicate their retirement programs to their employees. Steve writes a regular column for CBS Money Watch and recently published his, is it your sixth or seventh? Sixth book on retirement, Retirement Game Changers, Strategies for a Healthy, Financially Secure, and Fulfilling Long Life. It's a great read, off to a 5-star rating on Amazon, congratulations. And I started reading it and I'm excited to finish it. Steve currently serves as a fellow in the Society of Actuaries and is a member of the American Academy of Actuaries. Steve graduated summa cum laude from UC Irvine with a double major in mathematics and social science, and we are delighted today. We've been trying to get Steve to talk to us for about 2.5 years. We're so happy you accepted our invitation, and this is the first time he's spoken in front of an AAII audience. So thank you for making the trip from Oxnard. Now, a personal factoid about Steve. Steve and his wife are active travelers during their current go-go years. They've hiked the Inca Trail in Peru, not once but twice, which is fantastic. I was there a couple summers ago. They have visited Bali, Thailand, New Zealand, Alaska, made several trips to Hawaii and Europe, but they say their favorite destination is traveling to Falls Church, Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., to visit with their 3 grandchildren. So ladies and gentlemen, that resonates with this crowd. Ladies and gentlemen,
thanks for coming out today on Saturday morning. We are in the middle of a longevity revolution, and it's not going forward. Let's see.
Mike, is it on? Is it on? Mike?
You start over.
Let me see if it's showing here. Is there a way to manually do this? I'm assuming there is.
Check the laptop, press space bar.
Arrows? Okay. So, just go like this and I'll just...
We are in the middle of a longevity revolution. You don't have to go back very far when you see people only lived on average 22 or 33 years. That's a few thousand years ago. A blink of an eye in evolutionary terms. At the beginning of the 19th century, average life expectancy was 47 years, and then during the 20th century, we added 30 years to our life expectancy. So now, on average, people live to age 78, but that's just the averages. And I think most of the people in the room are going to live longer than the averages. Now, what's interesting is that the significant achievement in the 20th century, adding that 30 years to life expectancy, accrued broadly across the population. It resulted from factors like clean water, efficient waste. In fact, we can credit our plumbers, probably more than our doctors, with this increase in life expectancy. But also abundant supply of food, electricity, refrigeration, vaccinations. This accrued broadly across the population. But what's interesting is that if you look forward at what's happening now, we've all heard about the wealth inequality and the income inequality, and what we're seeing is evidence that in the future, people who will live longer and continue to accrue longevity gains are those who have the capability to make more healthy decisions then have the knowledge and the discipline to implement those decisions. And that's why we're seeing a growing life expectancy gap in the United States. People with above average income, college education, those are the folks who are continuing to accrue these extension in life. And so I contend that this is probably the people in the room here today. So when you...
It's working now. We got it working. Okay, great.
Thank you. So when you read about average life expectancy in the media, just think that this is the average and it averages in everybody. The other thing that you need to consider is the average life expectancy you see in the media is life expectancy from birth. And what's most important to the people in the room is the remaining life expectancy, because that's going to be a lot higher than these numbers you see at birth. So longer lives isn't the only retirement game-changing challenge that we face. It's sobering to think of when you look at the last 30 years, from 1987 to 2017, we've had 4 stock market crashes that each one of them could have derailed somebody's retirement. So that's another challenge, because if we're going to be living for 20 or 30 years in retirement, we have to set up our financial and our investment plans to survive these financial meltdowns. My grandfather had a 10-year retirement. It's a lot easier to plan for a 10-year retirement and invest for a 10-year retirement than it is for a 20 or 30-year retirement. You're probably all aware of the transition in employer-based retirement plans. They used to have pension plans. Now they have 401k plans. And that transition places responsibility on workers to be their own actuaries and be their own investment managers. I was on the front lines working as a consulting actuary during that period, and I understood why the employers did not want to sponsor pension plans. But all along I thought it was a bad idea to ask ordinary workers to be their own investment managers and their own actuaries. And so that's really what I've dedicated a lot of my time to now. Here's one of my favorite cartoons. To read the caption, "Help, I haven't saved enough for retirement." This could be the headline from a report that we just issued at the Stanford Center on Longevity, where we looked at the assets and debts of the boomer population as they approach retirement and compared it to the assets and debts of prior generations of retirees. And it's not a pretty picture across the population. Now again, I'm going to assume in the room you're different, but these are your friends and your relatives and your neighbors who are in this predicament. 1/3 of boomers have 0 saved for retirement. For those who have a positive amount of savings, the older boomers have a median of $290,000, and the younger boomers have a median of $209,000. And I can show you the math, but that's not enough for what we would call secure retirement. This is going to create soul searching among workers and employers and their families, because the choices that the vast majority of these older workers are facing is either working longer than they thought, or reduce their standard of living, or some combination. Based on that report that I'm talking about, I can say with confidence that the vast majority of older workers do not have enough savings to retire full-time at age 65 under their current standard of living. Let me repeat that just to sink in. The vast majority of older workers today don't have enough savings to retire full-time at age 65 under their current standard of living. So this is why I say they'll either have to work longer or reduce their standard of living or some combination. But they'll also have to make smart choices for deploying the financial savings that they have. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I like to say that as you're approaching retirement or in retirement, it's your new job to spend time looking at what your alternatives are and your strategies are for maximizing your income and your security in retirement. If you calculated your hourly rate that you're making, that you're paying yourself by taking the time to learn about these strategies, you're probably making hundreds of dollars per hour. You don't even have to work full-time or even part-time, but you're not going to be able to make these decisions in an afternoon. So this is why I say it's your new job. Take the time attending workshops like this, reading in the newspaper. It's well worth your effort. So Fred introduced my new book, Retirement Game Changers. This focuses on the critical series of decisions that older workers are facing as they transition from the workforce these decisions get a lot more complex compared to while you were working in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. Because the only, and I'm being a little facetious, but the only decisions you needed to make were how much to save and how to invest those savings. But as you're transitioning into retirement, the decisions become a lot more complex and the stakes are a lot higher. Most people don't have do-overs. And so that's what I've dedicated my time to now, is helping people make these critical decisions. Now the subtitle, Strategies for a Healthy, Financially Secure, and Fulfilling Long Life, says it all, is that yes, it's important to take care of the finances, but that's not enough. We need to focus on your health and your social portfolio. So this follows a number of books that I've been writing recently, and so this just shows the body of work here. Been working at the Stanford Center on Longevity since 2013, writing for CBS Money Law since 2010, and since that time I've written over 1,000 posts on retirement. I just recently turned age 65, so I like to say that I've been thinking about retirement all my life, and now it's here. And so a lot of decisions that we're developing for my wife and I think would apply to a lot of people, and that's what I want to share with you today. So I want to do some framing here about how to think about these later years in life. And the 20th century arc of life went something like this. This is generalized, but you have childhood, education, and early adulthood. Then you had a period of middle age where that's focusing in on your family and your careers. And then you went into retirement. And I know this is idealized, but this is the path that a lot of people thought of. Now, when I talked about those extra years of life expectancy, we kept adding it on at the end. Average retirements went from 10 to 20 to now 25 years. We can't keep doing that indefinitely. So this is the basic dilemma that we're facing, is that when we add extra years of life, we're also going to need to add a few extra years of working in the process. So this is the 20th century arc of life. Here's what I contend the 21st century arc of life might look like. Is that with these extra years of life, what we've really done is inserted a second middle age, starting maybe in your 50s or 60s or even 70s. That's the period where this will go. And this is a period maybe of freedom and independence. Maybe your kids have moved out. Maybe you're more free to change where you live or change the kind of work you have, but you're still working, you're still productive, you're still contributing to society. Now in the circles that I run in, there's a camp that says we need to abolish the concept of retirement. It's just not relevant anymore. And I see things differently. Because no matter how vital you might be in the second middle age, I contend there's still going to be a time in your life, maybe in your mid-70s to 80s, where you're either not going to want to work anymore or you can't work anymore. And so we'll still call that retirement. Now, I've got to tell a fun story. I was trying this concept out when I was writing the book. So I have a group of people from Fidelity Investments that I was trying these ideas out. And the first one I talked to about this, he said, second middle age? The first one sucks. Why would there not a second one? She was in her late 40s. I knew her circumstances. She had teenage kids in the house. She had dependent parents she's worried about. That's the classic point of life, of unhappiness in life. Right next to her was a guy in his early 60s. Second middle age, awesome. Anything not to be considered old. And he loved the idea. So what's the secret to a long, healthy, financially secure life? Now, Fred introduced me as an actuary. I am fully qualified to bore you to tears talking about stochastic forecasts and efficient frontiers, but I'm not going to do that. I do want to talk about what I think is the most overlooked part of retirement planning, and that's focusing in on motivating and inspiring people to spend the time to make the good decisions. And so what I've been focusing lately is behavioral economics and the psychology of investing. And the typical step that's missing is motivating people to spend time paying attention in the first place. So I just want to share a few ways that might help. The first one is research at Stanford shows that if you are thinking about that person you are in maybe 10 or 20 or 30 years, you might as well be thinking about a stranger. You don't care about that future you. So they did some research which showed that if you saw a picture picture of what you might look like in the future, you're more likely to take care of that person. So I tried it out on myself. Here's a picture of me at 60, 70, 80, 90, and if I'm lucky, 100. So I've got these pictures on my desktop at home, and it actually motivates me to take care of that future Steve. Now, it doesn't work for everybody. I took a picture of my wife and aged her, and she got mad at me. So that's just one way. Another way is to pay attention to the power of stories. And what I mean by stories is a short narrative. Maybe it's a person in your life, and their circumstances. Maybe it's an urban myth. But these are short narratives that have a powerful influence on people's thinking. And so here's a story I hear a lot in my workshops. None of the men in my family live past age 75. I don't need to plan for a long retirement. But then I ask them, what do you think you're inheriting from your family? Because actually the research is showing us probably what you're inheriting are their exercise and nutrition habits, and those have a more powerful impact than your genes. But here's another story. My neighbor's 97-year-old aunt ran out of money and had to move in with them. She didn't think she would live that long. This happened with these are one of our neighbors. My mother died of ovarian cancer at 54. Enjoy while you can. You just never know how long you'll live. I know the person in this story here. She asked me to help her think about her retirement, and I knew what her story was. And I said, go out and calculate your life expectancy. Because this was the story right in front of her that she's focused on, but I knew all the rest of her relatives lived into their 80s and 90s. Here's an interesting quote from Jack Rowe, who wrote a groundbreaking book, Successful Aging. For all of the most strongly determined genetic diseases, the MacArthur studies show that the environment and lifestyle have a powerful impact on the likelihood of actually developing a disorder. This is wonderful news for individuals with strong family histories of some cancers, heart disease, hypertension, rheumatoid arthritis, and many other conditions. We now know that diet, exercise, and even medications may delay or completely eliminate the emergence of the disease. So a lot of people are powerfully influenced by the stories of their older friends and relatives, and they really don't realize that I asked them, well, did your older friends and relatives smoke? Were they overweight? Did they have bad nutrition habits? So these are some websites where you can calculate your life expectancy, and I encourage a lot of people to do that as part of their retirement planning. This is a story I hope we can prevent. If I knew I lived this long, I would have planned better. So here's another one of my favorite cartoons. This is a man with a laptop, and he's talking to his wife. If we take late retirement and early death, we'll just be fine. At least he's planning. Only about half the people plan. I want to show you a better plan. In fact, the first part of the better plan is to lengthen your planning horizon. A lot of people during their working years, they just want to make sure that what they're spending is less than what they're earning, and they don't really think long term. Maybe they set aside some money for investing, and maybe they set aside for their college education for the children, but they really didn't think long term. As you transition to retirement, you need to think to the very end, and that could be another 20 or 30 years, and so you really need to lengthen your planning horizon. So one of the most important decisions facing workers as they transition from the workplace to retirement, here are the top 5 for the vast majority of the workers I was talking about earlier. And the number 1 is when and how to retire. By how to retire, I mean, are you going to work part-time for a while or not? Second, when to start Social Security. Third, building a retirement income portfolio with savings and, if you're lucky, a pension. And so this is going to be a theme. I'm using the word retirement income portfolio, and I'll use this over and over again in this presentation. We need to shift our thinking from investment portfolios to retirement income portfolios. Number 4, making smart choices for medical insurance and Medicare. And for most people, they're going to have to reduce their standard of living, which living expenses to reduce. This is just the top 5. Here's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Whether deploy home equity. Many people approaching retirement have more wealth in their homes than they do in their IRAs and their 401ks. And And so they might want to explore tapping at home equity to fund their retirement. Protecting against long-term care expenses. Here's one that I really am on my soapbox about, protecting against financial fraud and abuse. At the Stanford Center on Longevity, we're doing a lot of research on financial fraud. And we're developing strategies that people would adopt in their 60s and 70s that says, when I hit a certain point in time when I'm not able to take care of my finances, please take these steps. And we're finding this is an important part of financial planning. And then finally, number 9, providing from your spouse after you're gone. As an actuary, I can predict if you're married, one of you will become a widow or a widower at some point in your life. I guarantee it. It's not being morbid, it's just planning for the inevitable. And so I really enjoy when people come to these kinds of workshops with their spouses, because what we're seeing over and over again, you've got to involve both spouses in these decisions. And lastly, if you're fortunate to accumulate enough wealth, planning for your legacy. This is why I say it's your new retirement job. You can't get all these decisions made in an afternoon or 2 afternoons or 3 afternoons. So this is part of my motivation to say, take the time, pay yourself hundreds of dollars by the hour to make good decisions here. So I gotta tell you another funny story. I go to parties now, and people, when they hear I talk about retirement, they ask me, what's the magic number? How much do I need to save to retire comfortably? And I like to think at last, this actuary is the life of the party. But instead of a magic number, in fact, I mock the concept of a magic number, and I say you really have to look at the magic formula for retirement income security. It's I greater than E, income greater than your expenses, because as I was talking about earlier, the vast majority of older workers don't have enough retirement income under their current standard of living. So they're going to have to focus on their living expenses as well. Now, I spend most of my time talking about the retirement income phase because that's the most complex. And most people have been managing their living expenses all along. But I do point out, this is the formula for retirement income security. Somebody could have $2 million and they're spending so much money that that's not enough, whereas another person could have saved $500,000, they paid off the mortgage, and they could be completely comfortable. So that's why you really have to consider both sides of this equation. Actually, it's an inequality. Funny story, I was giving a retirement planning workshop at the Aerospace Corporation, literally a bunch of rocket scientists. And they said, Steve, that's not the magic formula for retirement security, that's an inequality. So this leads me to retirement planning tip number 1 from your dog. Dogs are masters at balancing their income and their living expenses. And if you downsize your dog to a smaller doghouse, they're still happy, but they make do with whatever they've got. So when retirees are managing their savings, they tend to fall into 2 camps. And the first camp is to hoard their savings and minimize withdrawals because they really greatly fear outliving their savings. The second camp is the opposite. They're winging it. They use their savings like a checking account, and they write checks on whatever they happen to be spending their money on. I contend that both camps can do better. The first camp can spend more and feel safe. Now, I'm not going to chide people for being frugal, but I want them at least to know that they could spend more and feel safe. The second camp needs to spend their money more safely. And so part of my research at the Stanford Center on Longevity is coming up with retirement strategies so that people can feel safe spending down their savings. Now, retirement income planning involves a lot of trade-offs. And there's not one magic strategy or product that works out there. They all have their pros and cons. So trade-offs, what amount of retirement income are you generating? How much wealth can you access quickly? And those are 2 big trade-offs. Bequests, if you want to leave money after you're gone, by definition, that's money you're not spending while you're alive. And that'll reduce the amount of retirement income you have. As long as you make a conscious choice, that's fine. And finally, is it simple to implement and understand, and are your costs low? But that's not all. There are a number of risks we need to protect against. Longevity risk, inflation risk, investment risk, death of the spouse, cognitive decline, mistakes, fraud, tax, and political risk. No wonder a lot of people get confused. So these are the different kinds of solutions you see out there and how do we assemble all these different types of retirement income generators into a retirement income portfolio? And so for me, the answer is to apply modern portfolio theory. Now, modern portfolio theory was developed in the last half of the 20th century to help large endowments and pension funds run their retirement programs. And I believe that we can apply the same concepts in the payout phase. Modern portfolio theory focused on accumulating assets, and so they focused on asset classes, whereas now we're going to focus on retirement income classes. The basic decision with accumulating money is your asset allocation decision, and now we have the retirement income allocation decision. Assets are accumulating, and you're focusing on how much money you have in your assets, whereas now I think we need to focus on how much retirement income you're generating. And finally, risk. When you're accumulating money, it's expressed in the amount of money or savings you might be losing, whereas now we got to focus on the risk of your retirement income going down. So once we reframe modern portfolio theory to the retirement period, things work just fine. And that's been really what the focus of one of my research projects has been. This just shows you some of these research projects. They're all out on the website of the Stanford Center on Longevity. All of our work is in the public domain, so if you really want to dig into 100-page plus reports that have stochastic forecasts and official criteria, be my guest. Go ahead, make my day. The last report that we did, though, we found what we're calling the spend safely in retirement strategy. And this is trying to get at those two camps I was telling you about. And so it goes like this. We want to build a portfolio that has retirement paychecks. And paychecks are reliable monthly income that will last the rest of your life no matter how long you live and won't go down if the stock market crashes. Social Security, annuities, pensions if you're so lucky. Then we have retirement bonuses. These are periodic payments that you invest, and if the economy or the stock market is doing well, you can increase and you're investing for growth. But if the market isn't doing well, then you have to reduce your withdrawals. So really what you want to do is use paychecks to cover your basic living expenses, food, utilities, medical premiums, the roof over your head. Whereas you want to use retirement bonuses to cover discretionary living expenses that you can cut back. Hobbies, travel, spoiling the grandchildren. So this is the basic framework, but you also want to have a cash stash of money that you can access in case you have an emergency and you don't want to withdraw from your assets that are generating your bonuses or your paychecks. So this is the basic framework that we're showing. What are the sources of paychecks? I mentioned Social Security, pension, annuities, bonuses, withdrawing from invested assets, work. Some people can work for a while in their retirement years, and other people have other sources such as rental income. And so really the goal here is just to put together a reliable portfolio of retirement income. So the spend safely retirement strategy goes like this, and this is a baseline strategy from which I think this can work well for a lot of people who don't have the sophistication to develop retirement income strategies. I'm going to guess the people in the room here are sophisticated enough to develop their own strategies, and so this can be a baseline from which you can build on. So step one is optimizing Social Security benefits, and step two is investing in a target date fund, a balanced fund, or stock index fund, and you can use the IRS required minimum distribution to determine the annual withdrawals. Our studies, we looked at 292 different retirement income strategies using 8 different metrics. And we looked at things like annuities, various investment strategies, various asset allocations, optimizing Social Security, not optimizing Social Security. This strategy compared favorably to most of these other strategies, and it's extremely easy to implement. That's why we liked it, is it's easy to implement, and then if you want to get more sophisticated from there, go ahead, you can do that. So I want to look at each of these 2 steps. Let's take a step first, looking at Social Security. And these are some headlines from some of my columns. Boost your Social Security payout by $100,000. My yardstick for determining a Social Security claiming strategy is what is the expected amount of income you might receive over your lifetime. Get $90,000 more for your spouse. So I ask you, if you had to spend one afternoon or 2 afternoons trying to figure a Social Security claiming strategy, and this is the potential payoff, would you take the time? I'm hoping the answer is yes. So let's dig down on this. I just want to show a simplified example. This is for someone who was born in 1960, earning $75,000 per year, a little bit above the middle income area in the United States. If they started Social Security as early as they could at age 62, their annual income is about $18,260. If they wait till their full retirement age, for this person that's age 67, they're getting $27,000 per year. And if they wait till 70, that's the latest you can start Social Security with the highest amount of benefit. Their initial Social Security comes to $33,780. So I like to say, what are the accumulated lifetime payouts you might receive? So if you decide to start at age 62 and you pass away at age 70, well, your payout is $146,880. If you start at 67, 3 years until 70, you've got a payout of $81,000. Now, if you decide to wait till 70 to start your Social Security and you die at 70, bad move. But actually, if that person's married, it might be a good move, because delaying Social Security not only increases your lifetime payout you might expect, but also maximizes the payout for your surviving spouse. So it might not be quite a bad move as you might think. But this is just passing away at age 70. Here's what it looks like if you pass away at 80. You can see that it's roughly equal. But now if you live to 90, delaying your Social Security until age 70 is the clear winner. This is one reason why I encourage people to calculate their expected life expectancy, because this can help determine optimal claiming strategy for Social Security. Now, not many people delay all the way till age 70, and so I think a good compromise is delaying until your full retirement age, which currently is 66, but it's going to go to age 67. But we really need to be aware of loss aversion and framing. These are powerful behavioral economics concepts. Loss aversion is the concept that people feel the pain of losses twice as much as they feel the joy of gains. But you need to couple that with framing. How do you define the loss? So in this scenario, suppose scenario 1, you decide to delay Social Security until age 70 and you die at 70, you've lost $146,000 compared to as if you had started at 62. And most people focus on this because they worry about dying young. They say, you know, if I delay taking Social Security and I die young, I'd be mad. I say, no, you'd be dead. You don't know how mad dead people are. But let's look at scenario 2. Suppose you decide to start Social Security at 62 and you live to 90. Now you've lost $160,000 compared to starting at age 70. So which loss do you want to avoid? I can easily imagine the scenario 2 because I have older friends and relatives who are in their late 70s or 80s and they're struggling financially. They started Social Security as early as they could at age 62. And now they said, gee, I wish I had met you, Steve, before. I could have worked longer. I could have delayed drawing down Social Security. Now, you don't need to start Social Security when you retire. In fact, if you're going to retire before age 70, a very good use of your savings is to fund a Social Security bridge payment where you pay yourself the Social Security benefit that you're delaying so that when you reach age 70, now you've got the ability to start your Social Security. So I say, what's more likely, dying at age 70 or living to age 90, and which outcome is worse? So we've already talked about scenario 1, that's regret from heaven, whereas scenario 2, being old and alive, poor and alive at age 90. Now I get people saying, well, I'm not going to wait to take Social Security because I might go bankrupt. And they read about in the headlines that the Social Security Trust Fund is going to be exhausted in the year 2033 or 34. I'm going to get on my soapbox and I'm going to ask you, because you are smart people and you can help correct the myth that's out there. The Social Security Trust Fund is just a supplemental source of funding retirement benefits. Roughly 3/4 of all retirement benefits are paid by current workers paying FICA taxes. And only about 1/4 of the benefits are being generated from the trust fund. The trust fund could be completely exhausted. And what will happen under current law is that people could only get the benefits that are funded by the current taxes. So right now, if the Social Security Trust Fund went bankrupt, actually of their benefit. Now, 79% compared to 100%, that's bad news. But it is not zero. I contend that our leaders will correct Social Security and we will get full payment of the benefits that we are due. And when you look at the types of changes that are contemplating, they usually protect people that are currently in pay status and currently close to pay status. So I happen to feel that it's a pretty likely chance that I will get paid my Social Security benefit that I am delaying until age 70. It turns out that the real Social Security Trust Fund is the ability and willingness of current workers to work and pay their taxes to support current retirees with the expectation that when they hit retirement, then the younger workers will do the same for them. It's an intergenerational contract. And I think it's just a formalized version that's been around for millennia, where the younger people took care of the elders and the vulnerable people. Now we've systemized it. And so that's my take on Social Security benefits. Now we've been trained to say that Social Security isn't enough. And yes, if all you had was Social Security, you wouldn't have a very comfortable retirement. But that doesn't mean you ignore the value. For the vast majority of workers, Social Security will be the largest source of their retirement income. And so that's why we need to help them optimize their payments. I believe that probably a lot of you in this room have enough wealth so that probably you're going to have a higher income than Social Security, but it's still worth spending your time optimizing that value. So let's take a look at step 2 of the spend, save, and retirement strategy. And I like to say your savings that you've accumulated are not there to spend in retirement. Now you might think, what's a spoken? Of course there's to spend in retirement. I like to think of savings as a retirement income generator. And I purposely use the analogy rig to draw attention to the fact that there are a lot of different retirement income generators, just like there are a lot of cars out there, and different cars have different accelerations and different miles per gallon. Different retirement income generators produce different amounts of retirement income. They have their pros and cons. And so it's just like buying a car. You want to do your homework. So there are 3 basic ways to generate income in retirement. The first one is to invest and only draw down the interest and dividends. And for people who have accumulated enough money, that actually is a pretty good way to go. I do want to point out that this is one way to deal with stock market volatility. Because the volatility in the cash flow of interest and dividends from a balanced portfolio is much less than the volatility in the underlying values of the portfolio itself. And so if that's your strategy, if you want to keep the principal intact and just live off the interest and dividends, that's one good way to go. It produces the lowest amount of retirement income, but if you've got enough savings to generate that, and if leaving a legacy is important to you, this is one way you can do that. A second retirement income generator is to buy an annuity from a well-rated insurance company. Now to stop here is that I'm not talking about variable annuities with high costs and bells and whistles that have a bad reputation. I'm talking about single premium immediate annuities that are just basically you're buying a personal pension. You give your money to the insurance company, they promise to pay you X dollars per month for the rest of your life. I've got to tell you a story. I was at an industry conference, insurance industry conference, talking about different annuity products, and they were whining about the profit margins in the kind of annuity that I just told you about. And if they're having poor profit margins, it means that's the best deal for the consumer. That's why the insurance companies love variable annuities with all bells and whistles, because it's impossible to figure out if you're getting a good deal or not. There are ways using annuity bidding platforms that are very transparent, where you can get the best annuity at the time that you need to buy an annuity. And so for people who want to build a portfolio of paychecks on top of Social Security, that's one way to go. And finally, investing and drawing down principal cautiously is called systematic withdrawals. That's a third way to generate a retirement paycheck. You might want to have a portfolio that has both. And so you might have some money in annuities and Social Security, and then other money that you're investing and drawing down. Now, there's a basic psychological strategy here at work in what I'm suggesting. If you've got your basic living expenses, food, roof over your head, utilities, covered by sources that don't go down when the stock market crashes, that makes you feel more comfortable for the money that you've invested in the stock market. You don't have to stress as much. One of the problems with investing in retirement is that once you retire, you can't go back to work. I mean, you might, but you might not go back to work and make more money when the stock market crashes. And so earlier, Doug Fabian was talking about you don't want to sell when the market is low. This becomes harder in retirement when you don't have the ability to go back and make up for your losses. So how do we trick ourselves into staying invested while we're retired? And that's really the heart of the strategy, is that if you've got your basic living expenses covered by sources that won't go down if the stock market crashes, I hope you will feel a lot more secure riding it out. Because all the research says that by far the best strategy for riding out stock market returns is to, what did Doug Fabian say? Do nothing, stay the course. And so this portfolio of having retirement paychecks and retirement bonuses will help you stay the course and do nothing when the stock market crashes. So I want to compare some scenarios. Here's a married couple, both age 62. They have $350,000 in savings, $100,000 household income. I just want to show a couple possible scenarios that they face that will illustrate the power of those first and second and third decisions that I was talking about. When to retire, how to retire, when to start Social Security. So one scenario, they could retire at 62 immediately and start their Social Security and their drawdown right away. Scenario 2 is a downshifting strategy where they're working part-time from 62 to 66. Then they start Social Security and their drawdown. Scenario 3, they're working full-time to age 66, so they start Social Security and drawdown. Scenario 4, another downshifting strategy from 62 to 70, starting Social Security and their drawdown. And finally, scenario 5, working full-time to age 70 and then starting their Social Security and their drawdown. This graph here shows the annual amounts of retirement income that these different scenarios generate. And so look at the extreme, starting everything at age 62, a little over $42,000 annual income. Whereas starting at age 70 and working full-time to 70, over $73,000 annual income. This illustrates what I call the retirement opportunity zone between ages 62 and 70. When and how you retire and when you claim Social Security has a powerful impact. There's a lot of leverage in the amount of retirement income that you can generate. I also want to draw your attention to comparing scenarios 2 and 3. Both of them are retiring at 66, but scenario 2 was a downshifting strategy working part-time, whereas scenario 3 was working full-time. Not a lot of difference in the amount of annual income. Same with comparing scenarios 4 and 5. And so for people who are approaching their early 60s and are tired of working at the same pace, maybe they can arrange to have a downshifting strategy where they're not working quite as hard as they used to, but they're working just enough to let their Social Security and their savings continue to grow. Now this is just the annual amount of income. Now I'm showing replacement ratios. And replacement ratio is really what's the percent of your pre-retirement income represented by your retirement income. And it's common wisdom that people need 70 to 80% of their pre-retirement pay to have a comfortable retirement. This is showing you don't get to that until drawing down Social Security savings at age 70. This is why I'm saying the vast majority of older workers are not going to be able to retire to their current standard of living. So when people mindlessly say you need 70 to 80% of your pay to be comfortable, I like to say stop that. Most people aren't going to hit that. You're setting them up for failure. They really need to look at getting the most out of their income, and then they're probably going to have to look at reducing their living expenses. Now let's take a look at what's the proportion of the retirement income between Social Security and drawdown. Social Security is the blue part. This is the bond part of the retirement income portfolio, whereas the red part, if you were investing 100% in stocks, could be the equity portion of the portfolio. So in this case, all the volatility in investing is focused on these red portions. Now, admittedly, this is for someone who had $350,000 in savings at age 62. That's higher than average of the average worker, but I'm going to guess it's going to be a lot lower than what people in the audience here are facing. So if you were doing this kind of graph for yourself, which I strongly encourage you to do, your red portion might be bigger. This will help you decide on an asset allocation that works for you in your retirement years. Now let me tell you another story. I mentioned that I'm developing retirement strategies for my wife and I. I'm age 65. My analysis justifies going 100% in stocks with investing and drawing down. Do we do that? No, I just can't. I just can't, even though intellectually I know I ought to be 100% in stocks. And so our asset allocation is close to a balanced portfolio. It's about 2/3 in stocks. When you look at the savings amounts, but we also have Social Security, I have a modest pension from my prior employer, and when you put it all together, actually my asset allocation is a lot less than 66% stocks when you count the value of Social Security and a pension. Let's just focus on the drawdown part, because even though I'm claiming that you need to look at the total portfolio, you probably are going to look at your assets and your income being generated by your savings. And so now I'm going to focus just on the invested portion. This is for someone who is age 65 and they started with $400,000, and they're using the IRS required minimum distribution to calculate annual withdrawal amounts. Now, for those of you who know about the RMD, you know that doesn't start till 70, but what we've done is, what would it be using the same methodology from 65 to 70? These colored lines are just showing 30 years worth of withdrawals of 100% allocation to stocks using the IRS required minimum distribution for various time periods. And so we looked at the 30-year period starting in 1927, starting in 1937, 47, 57, 67, and 77, and 1987. And so what you'll see here, this is the path that 100% allocation to the S&P 500, together with using the IRS required minimum